Hello, this is a weird angle, but I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not in my usual house. I'm back in my mother's house, in my childhood room. My dad is moving, and okay, no one cares. Yeah, just thanks for all of the interest and the support on my last monthly movie roundup video. I don't think I'll be doing one of these every month, but on the months where there's a lot of movies that I'm excited to talk about, I will. And March was one of those months. I almost forgot what month it is. Oh my god. Like last time, there will be no spoilers. And if you want to know what I'm watching before one of these movie roundup videos come out, then you can follow me on my Letterboxd. The username is there, and it's also linked in the description. So, okay. Start. Visuals. No, but for real, this movie is so stunning to look at, and it's definitely its strongest feature. I'm trying to get more into scary movies, and while this isn't a horror movie, there are definitely a couple of scenes that disturbed me. There's a very intentional lack of dialogue throughout the film, and the gaps are filled with these long gazes and trippy sequences. None of this is a bad thing, it just kind of felt a little bit redundant. The way that the costumes depict the main character Jesse's transformation was less than subtle, but it was still so nice to look at, and I'm being so serious. That opening scene of the photo shoot, I want to do a photo shoot like that so bad anyway. There was a line in the beginning of the movie that really stood out to me because the way that we circled back to it at the end of the movie was really interesting. There were people discussing how lipstick colors are usually named after sex or food because apparently that's what appeals to women. And then they asked Jessie which she was, and yeah, I just thought that was creative. So I might watch it again, I might not, but the visuals were beautiful. Okay, I'll stop. I'm so pissed I did not watch this movie sooner. It was made during that weird period of the experimental animated movies Disney was making, but it's so good. I mean, it covers themes like colonialism and sexism in a way that doesn't feel like, look at us, we're making a point, which is kind of how Disney feels nowadays. Wow, I sound like a bitter old Disney fan. I swear I'm not, but anyway, if you somehow haven't seen this movie, I really recommend it. So, if you know me, then you know that usually anything slightly, smexual makes me pretty uncomfortable. Like, I literally even censored it in my script. But I'm trying to desensitize myself to it for the sake of consuming art. So yeah, anyway, I didn't love this movie. There's not a whole lot of a plot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I do appreciate, though, how they depicted teen sexuality without making it literally child pornography. So writers, take notes. Another movie about stuff. Anyway, this film follows a college journalist who gets into a kind of sugar baby situation. She needs a letter of recommendation to enter a writing competition, and an English teacher is looking for a new quote-unquote thing. You know what? I'm just glad that they made her of legal age, which, I mean, that sounds like the bare minimum, but... And as someone who is very far removed from that entire culture, I found this kind of interesting. I'm slowly making my way through all the Ghibli movies, and so far, unfortunately, this is my least favorite one. I think the idea of shape-shifting raccoons is fun, and had I grown up with the myths that the movie is based on, I probably would have enjoyed it more, but I'd still say it's worth a watch. If anything, that one parade scene is enough to watch the entire movie, because, wow, if there's one thing Ghibli does right, it's that. This movie has no business being this good. Seriously though, y'all take notes from Christian Bale's skincare routine. Anyway, this movie is not a cult classic for no reason. Its commentary on status and the Wall Street men and gluttony is just so good. Obviously, Patrick Bateman makes this movie what it is. And yeah, even though this is technically a thriller slash slasher, it was just so clever and funny enough that I had a really great time watching it, which really surprised me because I'm like, there's people being assaulted and murdered, and I'm having a fun time watching that. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the delivery of the performance that Christian Bale gave. Anyway, lots of people like this movie. I'm not alone on this, okay. It was fine. G. Alias is absolutely adorable. I hate Alex, but I'm glad that they actually wrote a character with a believable development arc. But it's not my favorite DCOM, unfortunately. It was good, I guess. I think it's funny that many of the actors are British / Australian, but they had to put on a yeehaw accent. Rob Pattinson's pastor voice haunts me in my dreams. Not that I'm particularly complaining, because who doesn't love Robert Pattinson? Okay, sorry. The worst thing that they did was kill the dog. I know I said no spoilers, but I feel like if you're gonna watch a movie with a dog, you need to know if it lives. So yeah, that's the worst part of the movie. Child actors really were better in the 80s. No, but for real, everyone's performance in this is just phenomenal, especially River Phoenix's. I actually had seen this movie when I was maybe 12 years old, but I didn't remember anything except for closing my eyes at the dead body and feeling scandalized by the kids smoking, so I decided to watch it again, and I'm so glad I did. I might have to rethink my top 10 films because of this one. Okay, so everything about this film is just amazing. The story, the actors, the sets, the special effects makeup, like, what the heck, just wow. I also didn't realize that this wasn't just a fantasy film until after I started watching it, but both the quote-unquote real life and the quote-unquote fantasy plot lines kept me very interested the entire time. Also, side note, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, my older sister said that this movie wasn't appropriate for me to watch, so for years I just never watched this movie because I was like, oh, it's not appropriate for me. Even as I was watching it now, I was like, oh, this isn't appropriate for me, but it's like, I'm literally 21 years old. I don't know, that's irrelevant. Anyway, this movie is definitely for hardcore Phineas and Ferb fans because we were absolutely being pandered to, but I'm not mad about it at all. Even though it's no Across the Second Dimension, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And every song is a banger, which we expect nothing less from Phineas and Ferb. I know what you're thinking. How could you never have seen The Wizard of Oz? Okay, so I've definitely watched this as a child, but I'm like 98% sure I would skip all of the Kansas scenes and go straight to the Oz parts, and even though I hardly remember anything, despite knowing all the gruesome details about the working conditions the actors had to endure throughout the filming, I freaking loved this movie. I loved it so much, seriously. I love Judy Garland so much, and her voice is so golden. I don't know if this is in my top 10 movies, but it's definitely in my top 20. Also, I got really sad for a second while I was watching this movie because I said out loud, oh, the dog who plays Toto is probably dead by now. Even though, like, duh, this movie was made in 1939. Anyway, is this just another classic high school coming-of-age unrealistic bet makeover scene where the girl takes off her glasses and instantly becomes hot and the entire thing culminates with prom and or graduation? Yes. Did I love absolutely every second of it? Also yes. And I'm still waiting for the day that I take off my glasses and instantly become hot. I'm still waiting. Alright, now onto the rewatches. Every time I watch this movie, I find something new to be amazed at. The attention to detail and everything is just perfect. It truly feels like everything would happen regardless of whether or not we were watching, and that's so admirable for Hayao Miyazaki to be able to do. I've definitely said this before, but he writes people, not characters, and that's why his movies are so good. Okay. This is my second favorite movie of all time, and it's for a good reason because this film is just impeccable. I don't really know what that says about me as a person, but I just love this movie so much. Like, I don't know, I just like the idea of falling so hard and so fast for someone, and then this like giant thing happens, but nothing will ever be as big as your love or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm exposing myself too much here. How is Hannah Montana 15 years old? I'm so old. Oh my god. I'm not going to scrutinize this too much because it's a kids movie, and I still had a hell of a time watching it. I can still do the hoedown throwdown. Thank you very much. But there's just like a couple of shots where Miley's making some interesting faces, and I'm thinking like, y'all didn't want to reshoot that, or... Anyway, you can say goodbye and you can say hello, but you always find your way back home. EP coming soon. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, yeah, that was so freaking stupid. I love this movie. It's the only good Disney movie live action adaptation, and it wasn't even made by Disney, so it still pretty much holds up, barring like a couple of things. I'm also glad that they used an actress that's actually an indigenous person to play Princess Tiger Lily. Was her culture being depicted correctly? I'm not sure about that, but overall this movie brings me so much joy and comfort, and as a child I was so in love with Peter Pan. Wow, an emotionally unavailable boy who won't grow up? Seems I have a type. Oh my god. But those are all the movies I watched in March. happy April Fools. It's not April Fools when I'm uploading this, but it's April Fools when I'm filming it, so happy April Fools. Okay, goodbye.